This is breaking news from KSL, your news specialists.
Just a freak accident that don't have time to escape.
Breaking news right now in southern Utah.
Massive boulder breaks free from a mountainside and crushes a home, killing 2 people inside.
Sound like an earthquake, a lot of vibration, cloud of dust, very hard to see, look like ground zero.
Now, you've seen the video there. Witnesses say the boulder is the size of a semi-truck and completely destroyed this house in Rockville, a small town just outside of Zion National Park. Now, police got the call just before 5 o'clock. This home used to be a 2-story log cabin. Well, tonight, it is barely recognizable. Authorities found 2 people inside. As mentioned, they did not survive.
Obviously, the large boulder has done a lot of damage to the house. Get some heavy equipment in and try and move some debris and secure the scene.
All right, now as for the rocks, officials are worried that other rocks may be ready to fall as well. Photojournalist Stace Hall has spent the night at the scene and joins us on the phone right now. Stace, what does it look like at this point down there?
Well, Mike, it's hard to imagine the magnitude of impact that struck the home in Rockville off SR9 this evening. The structure is not even distinguishable as once having 2 floors. Officials told me the main rock that came loose was the size of a tractor trailer. It fractured at the top, crushing everything in its path. There were also some concerns throughout the evening, as you mentioned, of possibilities of a second slide taking place. Springdale Police Chief Kurt Wright said recent frigid temperatures and freezing patterns are to blame. Well, neighbors were given the option to clear the area while the scene was being secured, but surrounding homes remained dark, the scene very somber tonight. Wright described the victims as being well-known and well-liked, that it's, of course, been so difficult to watch Rockville residents walk up to the area and burst into tears.
Hey, Stace, real quickly here while we have you on the phone. I mean, it's hard to imagine as you see this video here. What's next? What are people going to do now as far as authorities, officials down there? What is their plan next?
The plan throughout the evening, Chief Wright said, is to continue to monitor the area, but because of the frigid temperatures, all the snow in the area, there's really no chance of removing the victims' bodies until the morning. They just have to simply wait it out.
All right, Stace Hall live for us this evening in Rockville. Stace, thank you very much.
Falling rocks have been a big fear for folks there in Rockville for years, as large boulders have been crashing down for decades.
Yeah, in 2002, another large rock crushed a home. No one was injured there. Then just a few years ago, rocks started tumbling again. This was the area in 2010 when KSL crews were on the scene. A large boulder came tumbling down the mountain, and luckily before it collided with the home, it hit another large rock and broke apart.
We knew someday that would probably save our lives, and it actually did.
Everything seemed to explode and the dust came up. We noticed this big rock right here. It's the one that saved the house.
One piece did hit a shed, moved it off its foundation. Another ended up on the roof, and some went through the roof. A third chunk rolled into the home's mudroom. No one was injured in this slide either, but it did have residents looking up the mountain where another large rock was perched in a dangerous position.
After the first slide, Utah geologist Tyler Knudsen checked out the second rock. He was instantly worried.
There are areas where it looks like surface water is starting to erode underneath it, which every time it rains, it's probably destabilizing that rock a little bit more.
Knudsen told us back then that second rock will fall. It's just a matter of when.
Could be tomorrow, could be a week from now, it could be another 7-10 years from now. It's impossible to tell.
Officials said back in 2010 there were several options. They could try and stabilize the rock, or they could try to blow it into smaller pieces. Former Mayor Alan Brown told us tonight the State Geological Survey never made a final recommendation on what to do, and that rock that caused so much concern 3 years ago is still on the side of the mountain. Mike?
Well, the State Geological Survey did a complete report here on the rocks above Rockville, detailing what hazard they pose to the residents. The study was released in 2011 and had some startling findings and some warnings as well.
Geologist Tyler Knudsen wrote in that report, rock falls in 2001, 2002, and 2010 were preceded by relatively dry weather, and no earthquakes were recorded at that time. Knutson determined these falls were likely caused by the effects of gravity and erosion. He then warned similar rock falls can be expected at any time and anywhere along the south edge of the Rockville Bench without warning or obvious triggering mechanisms. He went on to recommend a further detailed investigation and said owners of homes in that area should be informed of the hazard in case they want to hire their own geological team to evaluate the risk on their individual properties.
And certainly this is something we are going to be working on throughout the night. We have a crew on the scene right now and another team that is heading there to bring you the very latest on KSL AM starting at 4:30 tomorrow morning. And if there are any developments that happen overnight here, we're going to post those on KSL.com.
Another story we're following tonight is a weather system that's just trying to come in the door.
It's trying to break through and bring a little snow and maybe mix up the air just a little bit, but it doesn't look like it's going to hold together as it tries to get to Utah. Here's a look at what's going on around the region. It is 10 degrees in Boise, 15 in Salt Lake, but we've got rain and snow from Medford north to Seattle, and it's trying to head on in. The problem? Big blocking high pressures in the middle, and it will likely tear that storm apart before it ever reaches us. Here's your first forecast tonight. Mostly clear temperatures, still cold in the teens. We will drop into the single digits once again. Partly cloudy skies and smoggy for the morning commute, and in the afternoon, more clouds and smog. Coming up, we'll take a look at the weekend. I'll talk about when our next storm gets in here, how bad the air quality is, and how long it will remain that way. I'll have the details in the forecast in just a sec.
All right, Kevin, thanks. A man who had close ties to former attorneys general Mark Shurtleff and John Swallow has been charged with 6 felonies. And the case against Timothy Lawson could be a preview of what his 2 former bosses might face in the future. The charges are in connection to the ongoing investigation into allegations of wrongdoing by the Attorney General's office. Lawson was a close associate of former Attorney General Mark Shurtleff. He was known as his fixer. He's facing a list of serious charges, including obstructing justice, retaliating against a witness or informant, tax violations, and a pattern of unlawful activity. A top deputy in the AG's office said, quote, Lawson's the guy that's going to bring down the house of cards.
Click it or ticket. That's the Utah campaign that urges all of us to wear our seatbelts or face a fine. But an upcoming report raises some questions about whether law enforcement officers are actually following their own rules. News specialist Jed Bold joining us on the road to 0 fatalities with this story. Jed, what did you find out?
Yeah, Mike, that upcoming report out of California's Peace Officer Standard and Training estimates that about half of all police officers don't buckle up when they're on the job. Well, that news comes as a real surprise to Utah's police officer training director, who estimates that about 80 to 85% of officers in our state buckle up because that's the way they train.
Definitely keeps you safe out here on the road.
State Trooper Colby Garrick always buckles up, whether he's on the job or in his own car.
It's our policy that we wear our seatbelts.
But that's not the only reason.
We see tons of crashes out here on the freeway.
Too often, Garrick says, troopers respond to fatal crashes in which the victim would have lived had he only worn a seatbelt.
The stuff we see out here on the roads, it definitely helps me to remember every time I get in the vehicle to put my seatbelt on.
The UHP tells me that discomfort and fear of being caught in the buckle during an ambush are the 2 most common excuses that officers will give for not wearing a seatbelt. But here in Utah, at least, they train on getting out of the belt and getting out of the car quickly.
Bring our hand under the seatbelt, unlock it, and then at that same time we grab our door handle, open our door, and then we can throw our seatbelt out of the way so we can get out of the vehicle quickly.
According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, traffic incidents, not shootings, were the leading cause of officer deaths in 14 of the last 15 years. Of the more than 700 law enforcement officers killed in a crash from 1980 through 2008, 42% were not wearing seatbelts. We spotted another trooper on the road, and he was wearing a seatbelt too. Garrick says it goes beyond department rules.
If I see one of my buddies not wearing a seatbelt, I'm going to ask him about it. Not only because it's our policy, but because I want my buddy to go home at night, just like I want to go home at night.
I also talked with Salt Lake City Police and Salt Lake Unified Police Departments about their policies. They also require their officers to buckle up, and also any other passengers or anybody who's in custody needs to be buckled in as well. The only exception with the UPD policy is that if they're getting ready to have to hop out of the car and chase somebody or execute some kind of tactical maneuver, then they can unbuckle just immediately before getting out of the car. Reporting live for KSL 5 TV, I'm Jed Bowl.
Well, get ready. Your next flight could be a lot louder. Coming up, the vote to allow cell phone calls mid-air and what flyers really think about the idea.
It makes you feel awesome.
He was supposed to have the trip of a lifetime with the Tooele High School Marching Band, but he got to Hawaii and spent the whole week in a hospital bed. Coming up next, how his family band members surprised him after his health scare half a world away. And the mystery's been solved. We've got the incredible end to a story you've been following with us for weeks now, and it's coming up.
All right, welcome back. We've been talking a lot about this lately. The proposal to allow mid-flight cell phone calls took yet another turn today.
The FCC voted, and those calls will now be a reality. News specialist Devin Dolan joins us. And Devin, this might be a case of be careful what you wish for.
Well, yeah, Deanie, if the ban is lifted, it would mean you could make phone calls on your flight. But of course, then you would also have to listen to. So excuse me, sir, I can't focus. I'm in the middle of a live shot here.
I can't believe how good it was. It was just
Whether you're walking, sitting, or standing, there's no excuse for not responding to a call or text message. In fact, people get concerned if you don't respond immediately. Your only refuge is the confinements of an airplane.
It's inconvenient, not being able to get in touch with friends and family.
But that phone call may be as soon as your next flight. The Federal Communications Commission voted to lift a ban on in-flight calls.
Where there is new onboard technology that eliminates that potential for interference.
The Federal Department of Transportation is against the action, stating it would be unfair to consumers. But not all flyers agree.
I don't think that there's really much wrong with it.
Are you sure?
Let's see how people really feel. Hello?
TSA wouldn't let me on an airplane.
Hi, how are you?
So I cozied on up at the airport.
Oh yeah, do you remember that time when we
held a fake conversation? I talked and talked, and people looked.
It is just going to be nuts.
Scratched their faces.
We could do lots of.
Glanced over again.
Really.
Tapped their luggage.
The most ridiculous thing.
Became uncomfortable. And when I left, no one, not a one, had a problem staring me down.
Your voice kind of dominated the area here.
But strangely, people became interested in my one-sided conversation.
But I wondered, without barging in on your conversation, who you might have been talking to.
And even when they felt they should stop eavesdropping, they couldn't.
I was like, I wonder what happened to this person.
But they only had to listen to me for a few minutes. Try hour.
That you're going to have to handle.
After hour.
I know she really likes that one sushi place.
On a long flight.
And the FCC is asking for public input, so you can head to their website and voice your opinion. But Mike, I must have some good fake conversations because everyone I talked to today was a little bit interested in what I had to say.
I'm nervous that you can talk to yourself for that long of a time, Devin. With no one on the other end, but great report. Thank you, Devin.
Playing in the Pearl Harbor Day Parade was an honor one Utah teen looked forward to for months. Instead, he spent that weekend in Hawaii in a hospital bed. Not the trip of a lifetime like he'd hoped. But today, his marching band had a little surprise for him. Tooele, Thursday. Temperature 27 degrees. Performing in the snow is nothing new for the Tooele High School Marching Band, but a big change from just 5 days ago when they were performing in Paradise, Hawaii. Saturday, temperature 83 degrees. The Buffaloes were handpicked to play in the Pearl Harbor Day Parade on the island of Oahu, a performance they spent more than a year practicing and fundraising for. But when the team marched through the streets of Waikiki, they were missing one member.
I had an asthma attack.
Jacob Williams got extremely sick after landing on the island.
And apparently I had the flu too.
He was admitted to the hospital where he spent the next 5 days. He missed the ceremony, he missed the parade, and he missed sightseeing with his team.
He was on our thoughts and in our prayers every minute of every day. We talked about him. We prayed for him and his family.
Jacob's mom made the trip to Hawaii to be with him in the hospital. And after he recovered...
Did you get to see any of Hawaii after you were out of the hospital?
Yes, I did. We went to Pearl Harbor and just traveled around the island, and it was awesome.
But the best part of Jacob's trip may have come after he returned home, when his band showed up in his front yard.
1, 2, 3, 4. Come on.
We're just glad that he's back. He didn't have a chance to do everything with the band at Pearl Harbor, so we wanted to bring a little bit of it to him in this lovely weather.
Not only did the band surprise him with this street performance, turns out the team did a little extra fundraising while they were there to help Jacob and his family cover the added expenses.
So we bought this little coconut bank, and everybody put their spare change into it. And so we're giving that to you, and it filled up really fast. So we had to go buy another one. So
Thank you guys.
We love you.
It makes me feel awesome, like I'm part of a real thing. They're my family. It's not just a group of friends. They are my family, and I love them for it.
Jacob is back to full health and says tonight he is happy to be home. That's very nice. And how would you like to be the trombone player out there at 15 degrees?
Well, that's what I was wondering. Jacob, this isn't Hawaii. Where's your coat?
That's right. Get a coat on that guy. I'm glad he at least got to enjoy some time there, and the band did a great job. Hey, the air quality, it is terrible outside along the Wasatch Front, and out and about, you're during the day, yeah, you see it, you feel it, but when you capture it at the end of the day on the sunset time lapse, you realize, look at that whole layer just trapped in the lower elevations, and it's hard to breathe, it's hard to get through, and it's not going away anytime soon. Let's go talk a little bit about that air quality. Up on the Bountiful bench, Ben Fuller captured this shot. You can get away from it in certain areas if you can get up high enough, but looking out into that valley, you can't see the lake, you can't see the island, you can't see the mountains, and it's just that choking air quality. Here's our current situation. Unhealthy in Utah, Salt Lake, Davis. Moderately unhealthy, Cache, Weber, Box Elder, Tooele, and Uinta. Duchesne is still okay for now, but all of this will likely worsen over the next several days as the inversion continues, the air quality worsens, and I don't see anything major coming in to help mix up the air and improve things. And these patterns, they can last 5, 7, 10, 14 days, depending on the overall pattern. And this one looks to hold right on through the middle part of next week. Where can you go to maybe get some blue skies and sunshine? Ray Boren, Zion National Park today. Look at all that fresh snow and blue skies and just incredible conditions. A rare sight to see that much snow in Zion National Park. And he said it just made for a pristine picture. Ray, thank you for sending it back. Well, let's talk a little bit about what's happening right now. It's 9 in Price, 3 Grand Junction, 5 in Delta. Mostly clear skies statewide. Temperatures again cold. 23 in St. George right now, but there is a storm system trying to get in from the northwest. The problem is this big blocking high pressure. You can just see the outline of those clouds that they just can't break through that high. Now, the high is moving enough to allow some clouds and part of this storm to make its way to Utah. That will happen tomorrow. A few mountain flurries not out of the question. The big problem is the high, it moves out temporarily. The little low pressure comes through, brings some clouds, brings some flurries. That's it, and then it's gone. And guess what comes back? The high pressure moves right back overhead, and we are socked in the inversion. We start getting little patches of fog in the overnight hours, and we hold to that bad air quality all the way through the weekend and into next week. Tonight, Montpelier, 7, Evanston 11, Bear Lake 11. Again, not quite as cold. We'll start to see some of those clouds start moving in the early morning hours and then filter into northern and central Utah throughout the day tomorrow. Temperatures in Price 26, but still extra cold. Roosevelt 15 below. Kanab will go to 38, St. George 37 tomorrow. And the 7-day forecast has us just adding a degree or two each day. We stay extra cold through Monday, and then we jump back out of it in St. George. We're actually up into the mid-40s for a change. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but lows still stay single digits and teens for the next 7 days. Your northern forecast, overnight lows, sub-zero in Logan and Morgan, single digits, Salt Lake, Orem, Spanish Fork. Still a few little snowflakes in there over the mountains tomorrow, but this thing's looking wimpier and wimpier. I think we're just going to get clouds for 99% of us. The smog sticks around through Sunday, into Monday, into Tuesday. A little storm on the horizon Thursday, Friday might be the breaker, but until then, we're stuck. Grant will be here tomorrow morning. He'll also tell you about what to expect for the rest of the day and look ahead at your weekend.
So you're ruling out a Christmas storm?
A little too early, but we're crossing our fingers.
Pressure's on. Thanks.
Okay.
A 75-year-old mystery solved. Next, how homework that was never handed in made it into the right hands. The mystery has been solved. 2 nights ago, we told you about a South Jordan woman whose sister was killed in a school bus crash 75 years ago.
Yeah, South Jordan unveiled a memorial just last week, and during that ceremony, the woman was given a piece of paper that had her sister's name on it, but she never got the woman's name who actually gave it to her.
News specialist Alex Cabrera first reported this story and says that woman is no longer a mystery.
75 years and 3 generations later, these items
This is the funeral book.
still mean the world to Caroline Chamberlain. They are of her uncle, Carol Stevenson, who died in a school bus crash in South Jordan in 1938.
May we extend our deepest sympathies in your recent sorrow.
Last week, South Jordan unveiled a monument remembering the 26 people who died in that crash.
There was no doubt I was going.
So she left her Glendale home in Kane County and drove nearly 300 miles one way to go to the ceremony. But she also had an old piece of paper from that crash she knew belonged to someone else.
I knew that if I went to this ceremony, I knew that somebody would know who this was.
That paper seemed like a homework assignment and had the name Virginia Nelson written in pencil on it.
After all those years, it was still there. It said Virginia Nelson, just as plain as anything.
During the ceremony, when Virginia Nelson's name was read, she noticed someone stand up. It was Joyce Holder, Nelson's sister. Afterwards, Chamberlain gave her that paper.
And as we handed it to each other, our hands just touched, and we just spanned all those years. It was amazing.
And that was it.
Turned and walked away. I have no idea who she was.
We spoke to Holder this past Tuesday because she never got the name of who gave her the paper, and she was hoping to thank her.
Oh, it brings tears to my eyes. It's amazing.
After our story aired, Chamberlain got in touch with us, saying she was the mystery woman.
My grandparents had memorabilia from that time, and apparently somebody picked that up and put it in his things. And so my mother didn't feel like she could throw it away, and I remember her showing it to me with those things.
Now she has another memory that is priceless.
It was amazing. It was just amazing. There was no words. We just stood there and hugged each other and cried. That's all we did. It was just amazing.
Alex Cabrera, KSL 5 News.
Isn't that wonderful? Now that they know each other, Holder and Chamberlain are hoping one day to get together.
Now, what a story. It's interesting how things come together and people come together to make something like that happen. So,
We'll be right back.
We are continuing to follow this breaking story out of Rockville. Crews are keeping a very close eye on the hillside after a massive boulder came down today, crushing a home and killing 2 people inside. KSL crews will be live on the scene with the very latest starting tomorrow morning at 4:30. Join us right here when you wake up.
All right. Well, tomorrow with the air quality, you're either going to have to hit the slopes or hit the gym. Which
One
is
of
it?
two. Gym for me.
Okay.
Hold your breath.